All right, everybody, it's Andreas Hale, senior combat writer at the Sporting News, and I'm here with Jungle Boy Jack Perry, who faces Sanada at Forbidden Door. Holy somebody's gonna bleep that out, but Sanada, like right from the start, you didn't get to do Forbidden Door last year. You're getting to do Forbidden Door this year, and you draw the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. What's that feel like?
Yeah, last year I missed out on it because I'd been smashed in the head with a chair a week or two before. Um, I mean, it's great. I think the event overall is just kind of such a spectacular thing. You get these two huge wrestling entities coming together to bring you an event that's pretty much like nothing else in wrestling, I think. I'm going to be completely honest. Right off the bat, I've never seen a Sonata match in my life. Uh, Other than Osprey and Kenny just recently, I haven't watched anything in New Japan since Kenny and Cody and the Bucks left. But that being said, for me, it's not really so much about who the match is with. For me, it's about winning a world title. And it could have been anybody. I was going to take the opportunity to do that. And that's exactly what I'm planning on doing. What day is it? Sunday? This Sunday at Forbidden Door.
The IWGP Heavyweight Championship is something that has a ton of prestige behind it. Now, obviously, you've gone out for other world titles, but what would winning that title mean to you in your career right now? And does that mean that Jack has to go to Japan and work?
Well, I hope. I've never been to Japan, but I would definitely love to go. It's definitely on the bucket list. I think more than anything, for me to win this title is just going to shake up the entire game. This the event is a huge collaboration, obviously, but also it's a competition. And the way I look at it is two teams, and I have the opportunity to represent my team. And I think what better way to represent your team than bringing back the biggest trophy that these guys have?
That's pretty significant. I want to go back a bit because right before this, you had the Four Pillars match for MJF's world title. And before that, it was a feud with Christian. And you've been kind of on your own. This was like the second chapter of your career, where it's really you and nobody else, but you formed a partnership with Hook along the way. What is a relationship
Yes.
like with Hook, a man of so few words? How do you two communicate?
Yeah, Hook's a cool dude. That's actually one of the things I appreciate about Hook, uh, is that he doesn't go out there and make a lot of noise per se. I feel like there are a lot of people who walk around back there and want to tell you how great they are and talk about how good they are and all that. And then they go out in front of the crowd and it's not, the response doesn't necessarily back up their claims. And I feel like Hook is pretty much the opposite of that. He really doesn't say much out there or backstage. And then he goes out there and people lose their mind and they love him. And I don't know, I respect that. Um, I think also, especially with his situation and background, I really like that he just lets what he does speak for itself. And that's something that I really respect and kind of admire. And, I think I think it's kind of really blossomed and become something that we may not have expected at first.
Now, is Jungle Hook a team that you think it had the potential to be here to stay and challenge for the tag titles? Or do you think this is something where, yes, you guys are working together, but you both have individual things that you want to chase, and the tag team is just convenient for the time being?
I well, I think both. I think you look at him and he already has a title belt of his own, actually. And here clearly I'm gonna have one after Sunday. But at the same time, I have full intention of going forward as a team, and I think we have a lot of potential to definitely win the tag team titles. I've been in the tag division before, obviously, and I've been a champion of the tag division before. When I look around now, it's not the same tag division that it was when I left. And if I'm being honest, if I rank us among the teams that there are now, I'd say actually we stack up probably pretty high up there. So I think the summer, we've been calling it the summer of Jungle Hook, but I think there's going to be some big stuff in the future that maybe, we'll see what we can do.
Nice. What did you learn along the way in the feud with Darby, Sammy, and MJF about yourself? Because that was a major title feud. That was a long several weeks before you got to that match, and it's a lot different than what you had to deal with Christian and Luchasaurus. So, what did you learn about yourself?
Hmm. I learned how much I really do not like the other three of those guys. Although I feel like I kind of knew that already. Sammy actually turned out to be my favorite of the bunch, which I would not have expected. Um, I don't know. I think a lot of it was different than what I was used to. And I didn't love a lot of it on the way up, to be completely honest. And I think a lot of it was just waiting to get to the moment of the day. And then I think when we got to the day, it was different than what I had expected. And I think I was kind of faced with a situation that I wasn't expecting. And I mean, to be completely honest, I feel like I was not ready for that moment. And I feel like I fumbled the ball a little bit and did not walk away with the world championship, which was the entire point of that whole thing. Um, but it's definitely a learning experience. It's not the end of the road. It's just, it's another little piece of the story.
I know there's been a lot of talk about the four pillars thing. Some people are honored by it, and some people think that the four pillars have changed over the years. The concept of four pillars, do you agree with it, or do you think it's just something that kind of worked out pretty much in MJF's favor because it felt like it was something that he was standing on more than anybody else?
I think it's both. If you look at it, MJF created the idea of the four pillars. And if you look at it, he'd already beat me by cheating. He'd already beat Sammy by cheating. And right before he wrestled Darby, he comes up with this idea of the four pillars. So obviously, if he beats Darby, who's the best of the four pillars? It's MJF, which is very much his way of operating. But I will say, I think he picked the four of us for a reason. And I see people throw in their opinions about who should be. We are the four who have been there since the very beginning. And other guys have come in they're fine, whatever. We are the four who have been there pushing it as hard as we could the entire time. A lot of these guys were working other places, not even having it, whatever it was. We've been there since day one, going for it. We were all, give or take, nobodies, and have kind of risen up to this level. So I think if you were going to pick four, it is us four for sure.
I want to pivot back to Forbidden Door. Now, Sanada has mentioned that he doesn't think you're worthy of this opportunity. Now, granted, Sanada just got this world title. It's not like he's been holding the IWGP Heavyweight Championship for years. But doesn't it sense you a little bit when a man kind of discredits your position and getting this opportunity to challenge him for that title?
I mean, it is what it is, kind of. It's all business. As I said, and not even to be a dick about it, but I've not seen any of his work. They told me at first, when I first heard that I would have the opportunity to kind of accept this challenge, that there was going to be an open challenge for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, I thought Okada had it. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. Then I realized it was this guy. So it's like, I'm excited either way. Not knowing anything about him is kind of more exciting in a way because we're going to figure it all out in the ring in front of everybody live on pay-per-view. And I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he's a great wrestler, obviously, to be at the level he's at. As I said, for me, it's not really so much about who is across the ring for me. It's about winning the world title. I said at the beginning of this year that my one goal was to win a world title by myself because I've been a champion before, but I was part of a team. And I want, as you said, this is kind of chapter 2 of my career. I want to show everyone I can do it by myself, nobody else. And, he just so happens to be the guy standing in the way.
The betting lines have you as a pretty significant underdog for this match.
Yeah.
And you've kind of been like an underdog your entire career. Is it something that you embrace or is it something that you use as a chip on your shoulder to prove people wrong?
I mean, I kind of like it, actually. It's motivation in a way, but at the same time, I'm just going out there to do what I do. And that's kind of always been my idea. I'm going to go out there and put on the best performance that I can put on. And, I guess it's motivational. I feel like I've pretty much always been the underdog, but I beat bigger guys than him. I beat better guys than him. I beat guys who've been doing it longer. So, I don't really think that you can calculate these things that way. And I think, people may be surprised.
You think you guys steal the show on Sunday?
I mean, it's going to be a tough show to steal, but we're going to go for it for sure. I am. There are some amazing matches on that card. I'm really looking forward to seeing Kenny and Ospreay number 2. I watched that one on TV the first time it happened. So to see it in the flesh is going to be something else.
Yeah, let me ask you about that because like this card is loaded in terms of Okada and Bryan Danielson. You have, I mean, there's so much happening. A year ago, when this card was supposed to happen, everybody got hurt. It seemed like heading into Forbidden Door, it was cursed because everybody got hurt. Do you think Tony is making up for last year's, even though last year's was still a fantastic card, but he has loaded this with a bunch of dream matches?
Yeah, I think one thing that AEW does particularly well is the pay-per-views. And I think a lot of times the cards are stacked and really over-deliver kind of for the expectations. I think this was obviously the plan last year, and there were circumstances that kind of hindered that a bit. But I think always Tony's goal is to put on an absolute spectacular pay-per-view, just full of banger matches that people want to see, that's fun, that's exciting. And, this year I think we're a little more fortunate with the people who are able to participate. Last year was great, obviously, but there were some unforeseen circumstances kind of. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's always the goal, to put on the absolute best show that we can.
Couple more for you. One, Collision, new show, another new show that the AEW has, and the growth of AEW over the past, I think people forget, you guys haven't been here for not even barely a half decade. Do you think a lot of people forget how new AEW is? And I don't know how much you pay attention to the banter on social media, but when people are critical, do you think people forget AEW is still new, and this is a lot better than other competitors that WWE have done over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to actively look at it too much, but I see it because it's everywhere. Also, Twitter, the way it works now is so annoying that you see people you don't even follow. So I'm just like, all of a sudden my feed is full of all these like goofballs that I would never care to check their opinion in the first place. But I almost feel, I don't know if it's so much that people forget how young AEW is, but I feel like people, for some reason, just want to root against it and kind of want to see it fail. I think I feel like wrestling, it's an interesting mix because wrestling fans are some of the most passionate and dedicated fans you'll ever see, but a lot of them are just very cynical and seem to be kind of miserable no matter what you give them. I think AEW is doing phenomenal in pretty much every way you could measure it. There are obviously going to be people who want to take away from that and kind of diminish that, but you said we could beep stuff out, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, like these guys are losers on the computer. I think when you look at what's really happening, when you look at the people at the shows, everyone's having an amazing time. The TV networks are loving it. It's literally changed the world and the landscape of professional wrestling. So I think if some marks online want to talk about it, knock yourself out.
Yeah, I mean, you have been here from the start, and you went from, I think I've seen the first time I saw you was maybe the PWG show to this point where you're doing weekly television, you're working pay-per-views. I know AEW is young, but so are you and your growth in this company. How much do you feel like you have learned about the experience of wrestling on television and wrestling in front of large crowds and even pacing yourself? Because you've kind of gotten away with not being badly hurt in some situations where other talent has been injured. What has it been like, that experience for you of being such a young talent on this roster to this point now where this is like commonplace for you? Or is it still new to you in some ways? Do you still get the butterflies in your stomach when you get out there?
I get the butterflies for sure. It's been very interesting for me. When I got signed to AEW, that was my first time being signed as like a professional wrestler. And I was still pretty young into my indie career at that point. And I always thought it was going to be interesting for me to grow parallel with this company that was growing at the exact same time. What is it? We're 4 years in now, something like that. So to be there since day one and to kind of be so young in my career and be able to grow with the company and see how it's changed and see how I've changed, my outlook on a lot of these things have changed a lot. But my goal, always when I was a little kid, I liked the physical aspect of wrestling more than anything. I was a huge fan of Rey Mysterio and like seeing these crazy athletic things. And then later I became a huge fan of the Young Bucks and Kenny. Like, I really just wanted to be a great in-ring wrestler. And I spent a lot of my indie career and like definitely the beginning of AEW just wanting to show that I could hang with these guys who are the best wrestlers in the entire world. And that was really my primary focus. I still don't. I'm never going to be the guy who wants to go out there for 30 minutes and cut a promo, which I said very early on. And I think a lot of people took offense to that for some reason. I've learned over the time, the promos are more important than I had initially thought. And it's something that I've been working on, and kind of step by step. My goal is just to be a little bit better every day. And I think I've seen on Twitter, unfortunately, a lot of people want to write me off at this point. Like, this guy's done. He's not going to do anything because he doesn't like to talk. He's not good. I'm like, dude, I guess I just turned 26, but I'm 26 years old, and you're trying to write me off for forever because I don't love to cut the promos right now. So, like, for me, there have definitely been kind of growing pains, but I think for me also, my story is the story of growing up. I think even if you look at the gimmick, how it's changed. In the beginning, it was me and Marco Stunt and Luchasaurus, and it was I feel like it was very oriented towards the kids. The Jurassic Express was very kid friendly and kind of lighthearted. And, we lost Marco along the way, and I think things have happened. Luchasaurus and I broke up, and everyone's he turned darker. And I think as a wrestler, I've become a bit more serious and aggressive, and I think it's all changing. And I think it's the story of someone growing up. And I for the company as well. I think that's what we're doing. So it's been cool.
Your dream match, past, present, future, dead or alive. If there's somebody that you can get in that ring with, who would it be and why?
Well, it's interesting. Coming into AEW, I had a set of dream matches that I wanted to have, and I pretty much had those now. The main ones were being the Bucks, Kenny, and Cody. And I was fortunate enough to have all of those. I also got to wrestle Chris Jericho very early on. That was like my probably first big TV match. And I was like, oh my God, they're throwing me in the deep end right here. I think now probably, because I think there's a very good case for him being actually the best in the world, Will Ospreay.
That'd be a hell of a match. That'd be a hell of a match. My last question for you. You've done this for the past almost a half decade in this company. But what would your dad think of your career? What do you think he would think of the progress that you've made in the wrestling career as a boy who's always wanted to do this, to living out your dreams?
Yeah, I'm sure that he would love it. Before he passed, I'd gotten signed. Not long before that, the show hadn't taken off and all that, but I'd gotten signed. And one of the things that we talked about that he was very proud of was that I kind of did it without compromising anything that I didn't want to. And kind of the reason I love Jungle Boy so much was the character of it was because it let me be not what other people were trying to push on me and kind of what other people wanted me to embrace as my character. It was just Jungle Boy let me not say anything about who I was or anything like that and go out there in my underwear and a pair of boots and wrestle. And if you liked it, you liked it. And if you didn't like it, then that was that. And for me, a big thing also was being small, because I see it, people talk like wrestlers now a lot of times do not look like what wrestlers used to look like. And I think there are obvious reasons for that. And that was not something that I was ever going to compromise on. Just sort of the principles of it. And also, like, I don't think it's great for you however you get to be looking like that. But that was like a big subject of doubt kind of on the way up, was like, am I going to be able to make it not looking like these guys? I'm 5'10" and I weigh 170 pounds, give or take. And I think that, I got told a lot of times on the way, like, you're good at this, but it just may not be in the cards because of the way you're built. And it's like, it's not for everybody. And I think AEW has done a really good job of that too. Going back to the 4 pillars, something that I'm proud of is that none of us look like what people 20, 30 years ago would have said a wrestler looks like.
Right.
Yeah, we are 4 of the most popular guys in the whole company. And I think for me, like, thinking that there are little kids now watching me and Darby Allin and Sammy and MJF and being like, oh, I don't have to be 250 pounds and 6'5", whatever. I think that's really cool. And I'm very proud of that part.
Perfect. Well, Jack, thank you, and I appreciate the time. Good luck against Sanada this weekend. I'm sure the world will be watching because that's one hell of a dream match for a lot of people. So hopefully you come back with that IWGP Championship, and I'm sure we'll see what happens the following week on Dynamite.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's the plan.